Good morning, Kim, or good evening to you. Can
Hi,
you
Mandy.
can you introduce yourself for everyone, please?
Sure. So I'm Kim. I live in New Zealand. I am married and I am studying osteopathy, midlife crisis. Go back to study.
Well done. That's very brave of you. Excellent. So, Kimmy, what was it that got you to finally pick up the phone and call me to ask about coaching?
So at that point, I feel like I snapped emotionally. I was struggling with a whole lot of anxiety, had massive catastrophizing thoughts, and my people pleasing and working really hard and perfectionism just wasn't cutting it. And
Right.
I just wasn't coping anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you were really in trouble. And had you tried anything before that, before reaching out for coaching?
No, I hadn't. I just always just got on with it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
But
just trying to push through.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, and I think that's what a lot of people do, isn't it? It's, you have the skills you come into the working world with, and whenever things go pear-shaped, the first strategy is often just to double down and keep doing what you have already been doing, but harder. And when that doesn't work, you just double down again and push harder until
Yeah.
eventually it can get quite exhausting.
Yeah. I was, I don't know. I think I felt broken. That I remember saying to my friend, I feel like shattered glass. Like I can't sleep. I can't think properly.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Thanks for sharing that. So before you started coaching, what were you actually expecting coaching to be like?
To be honest, I didn't have any preconceived ideas about what coaching was. I thought we would probably have a chat. You would maybe tell me I'm not crazy. Um, but it was so much more than that.
Yeah, interesting. And what was the more that was kind of unexpected?
What you helped me to do was develop tools and skills to actually see my past patterns of behavior, which I would say I probably was aware of, but sometimes you just need them highlighted. But these patterns of behavior, they're patterns of behavior. You don't know how to change them. And you help me develop not only the skills to see them, but the skills to stop before I impulsively did something or said something stupid, and think and move forward. And then also using the skills you've taught me, I've been able to not feel as much pressure or anxiety on myself. And I give myself a bit more of a break.
So you're not as hard on yourself.
I try not to be. It is a work in progress.
Okay. So when you say patterns of behavior, can you give us an example of one of those patterns that had maybe resulted in you feeling so much anxiety, and what you learned about yourself that completely changed that?
What you helped me to realize is that an initial emotion I was feeling, say anxiety, the root emotion behind that was actually fear.
Okay.
And then you helped me to see how my people pleasing and my perfectionism tied into the fear. And it was my anxiety that was actually a protecting emotion, because my anxiety made me work really hard so I could mitigate my fear of failure or feeling stupid or not being liked.
So people pleasing and perfectionism were your compensation mechanisms, and you realized that with those sort of compensation mechanisms, there's actually no end point. There's no finish line. you can never clearly define when you've achieved the goal of perfection or you've pleased enough people. There's not enough pleasing in the world, and there's not enough perfection in the work that anybody does to ever attain that goal. So that would probably be why you were in a constant state of anxiety, feeling like you had to do more and more to try and attain this fictitious goal.
Yeah. Yeah. And you also helped me to see that this stems way back.
Mm-hmm.
This is something that hasn't just been in my life for the last 2 years, but it's a compounding habit, or it's compounded to the fact that I couldn't keep up, like you call it, doubling down, but that this stemmed from way back in my childhood. So just sort of sitting with that, and I've used the one strategy you've taught me is actually sitting with one of my past selves who struggles or has struggled, and I still carry those memories with me, as we all do. We all have had tough times, and we all sit with memories or regrets, shame, guilt, all of those sort of emotions. And I can be quite hard on myself with those emotions. So the one strategy you taught me is to go back and sit with that past self and say, hey, it's okay. You don't have to feel this shame anymore, this guilt. We can move through that.
And what sort of effect does that have on you now when you use that strategy, when you catch yourself still kind of going back to that old pattern of feeling the urge to please somebody, or feeling the urge to carry on working on a project until you satisfied with the perfection of it?
I am a lot more compassionate for myself. I give myself a lot more grace. Like I said, it's
fabulous.
Being a long-standing pattern. It's still, it takes work. You know, it's a continuous work in progress. But the more times I catch myself, the easier it is to overcome. Like, actually, that doesn't have to be perfect. You know, you don't have to get 97%. You don't, like, it's really, you can rather get sleep. You can rather go do some exercise and take time for yourself. You don't have to be perfect.
So you let yourself off the hook.
Yeah. Also, teaching myself that I'm worthy from within. I don't have to have external ratification, if that is the right word. To say that I'm worthy.
Yeah. So you don't have to prove yourself anymore. You know innately that you are actually worthy.
Yeah.
Because as a child, you were super competitive, weren't you? You were an elite level athlete, and also academically an overachiever. Can you remember where that came from?
Yeah, I think it definitely stemmed from I'm the younger of two, my brother and myself. And my brother was always very good at sport and got a lot of praise from my parents. And I was 10 and a half years younger than him. So I was just cruising around, did my own thing. And my parents were always amazing, always loving, always kind. And they always praised me when I did really well in sport and did really well in academics or whatever it was. So it definitely came from getting that sort of being seen by doing well. Yeah. And it's not that they didn't love me, but it's just these little things that we put in ourselves, our perceptions of what we believe others think they want.
Yeah, it's that saying, isn't it? I'm not who you think I am. I am who I think you think I am.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Yes, and it's interesting you say that, because a lot of people who come to me say, I don't understand this. I can't understand why I'm depressed, or I have this anxiety or ADHD or whatever it is, because I really had a stable upbringing and beautiful parents, and they were kind and loving. So I shouldn't have any problems. And yet life happens, doesn't it? And just the nature of children, especially children who live in the shadow of a sibling, constantly comparing themselves, they still develop these compensation patterns in their own little world, just trying to be special and trying to keep up. And it's a really beautiful thing about children, but you can see now the long-term repercussions because of that undefinable finish line. They keep striving for that perfection or whatever it is that their compensation pattern is.
Yeah.
You worked through a lot of stuff, and I must commend you. You really did work hard. You took to heart what I told you about me not being able to do the sit-ups and push-ups for you, that you were the one that had to go out there and do the homework and practice the skills that you learned during coaching and apply them to your life. And that was how you would embody the skills that you learned. So what I want to know is, how is it different now that you've learned these skills and you're managing your life differently? What are the biggest differences that you've noticed on a day-to-day basis with how you show up?
So firstly, I think the biggest thing is I am a lot more compassionate on myself, give myself a lot more grace. I also am more aware of what is a me thing or what is a someone else's thing. And I think my husband will thank you, is I don't try to fix all the problems anymore, because I've realized that sometimes something is for someone else and it's not my job.
Can you give us an example of that? It's like a concrete example that other people might be able to relate to, especially with respect to your husband, because I think a lot of people, when they're going through some kind of mental health challenge, the whole family suffers. So it might be nice for them to hear an example of how other people in the family benefit, even you were the one who essentially did the work.
So sometimes after work, you sit down with your husband and you have a chat about your day. And my husband's had a hard day and he's just venting to me about his day at work. And my husband being quite a non-confrontational person and me being quite feisty, I will often jump into the, well, we have to fix this mode. Like, this is a problem. And he actually doesn't want that. He just wants to tell me that he had a bad day. And he just wants to have that little space and then it's done. And so by me going into the jump in and fix it mode, I just raise his stress levels because he just doesn't want to anymore. So now I go, okay, so I'll say to him, are you venting or do you want me to fix it?
Okay, well done.
Yeah. And he'll just say, no, I just want to vent. Or if we have had a heated discussion about something, because we don't fight, we don't shout at each other. We're both actually quite non-confrontational, even though I'm fiery, I want to sort something out. And when I'm starting to feel quite anxious, I will say, oh, you've given me a lot to think about. I just need some time, or else I might say something that could upset him. So I give myself that space to cool down before I say something. And that also gives him time, because he needs space also to just think about things, and then we come back together and we can discuss things rather than getting more worked up. Yeah. So just
how would that have gone in the past before you had coaching?
Well, I would get really upset because I want to fix it. And my husband just shuts down and walks away. And then that makes me feel really pushed away and hurt by the situation. And I didn't see that actually he just needed some space to think about things. so that he could discuss more, because that was his upbringing and that's his story. That's how he likes to deal with things.
Mm-hmm.
So he would shut down. I would feel even more hurt, and it would just make me feel incredibly anxious
Right.
inside. Yeah, and rejected, which isn't a nice feeling. But
No.
now I sort of, when I start to see that he's feeling a bit upset or needs a bit of space, I'm like, okay, he just needs space. And I give him that space.
Mm-hmm.
So it's helped me to be more aware.
So you can give him the space without making it about you.
Yes, absolutely. Because how
Yeah.
he is feeling is how he is feeling. How he
Mm-hmm.
reacts to what I have said has nothing really to do with me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to say anything nasty to him,
Yeah.
but even if I did, how he reacts to that is how he reacts to it. That and you helped
Yeah.
me to see that.
Yeah. And it seems too that you now have the ability to hold space for him while he's in a mood without having to change his mood or change the way he's responding to you. And also what I've noticed is that you've understood that our nervous systems actually need a lot more time than we give them. You know, we wired to be reactive. We wired to jump in and try and solve problems and fix things and change the other person's emotional state. And yet, if we just slow down and give ourselves time to process, then a whole different response pattern becomes available to you, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
One that is, one that is kinder to yourself and kinder to the other person, and yet also actually faces the problem rather than sweeping it under the rug in a blind fury or a big huff or a sulk, and then not addressing it later because of the fear of another conflict flaring up. Because when your disagreements or your differences can take place in a calm atmosphere, it's much easier to actually deal with them. It's not as scary as thinking, oh my goodness, if I bring this up, there's going to be another stonewalling for 3 days. I can't handle that. My anxiety levels will go through the roof. Now you can actually be, oh no, I know how to handle this. And actually I can hold space for him, or I can ask him about something that's bothering him without it flaring into a major conflict.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, that takes a really high level of skill, Kimmy. So well done, because I know that you didn't get that right overnight. It took a couple of weeks or months of practicing and calming your nervous system until you are able to show up and hold space for your husband when he's struggling with something or just had a bad day. So well done.
Thank you. Like I say, it's a work in progress. I don't get it right all the time, but
Yeah.
I get it right a lot more now than I used to.
Yeah. And, I think our coaching sessions ended, it might have even been almost a year ago now. It was definitely longer than, can you remember?
Yeah.
It was almost a year ago.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, I tell people that what I teach them is how to use their own nervous system to become their coach. And it seems like you've really put that into practice, because it's a year later now and you're still as calm as I left you. And in fact, I can see that you've actually grown further and been working on yourself and achieved an even higher level of sort of peace and contentment and ability to hold space for other people.
Thank you. Like I said, it's a work in progress. And I would like to do some more sessions with you, because I know that there's always just a few more little things to talk about, or a few more things that come up where I'm still really curious about how to tackle them. So
Okay, interesting. Yeah, sometimes it's valuable just to have another person who's just listening and asking questions, almost to keep your mind on track while you solve the problem. Because I know that when I do this work with myself, I find that on my own, my mind drifts and I start having arguments with myself, and I get distracted and end up not actually being able to follow that breadcrumb trail down to the root of whatever's bothering me. So I can understand that people who need to come back, that's what they need, is just somebody to hold them on point while they process, because you know exactly what to do.
Yeah, it's like it's quite difficult for me to be completely objective of my own thoughts, because sometimes you just think that you're right in the way you think. And as much as you've taught me to observe my ego, I know that there are still a lot of things that I do struggle with. And sometimes we're also just completely blind to a certain behavior because
Yeah,
it's so subconscious. And even though
yeah,
you've made me a lot more aware, I think your coaching is definitely a valuable thing to come back, almost like little refreshers and reminders.
yeah, yeah. So you're not perfect. Welcome
No,
to real life. You're
what?
brilliant, but not perfect. That's amazing. Well done. Kimmy, how do you feel that a sense of freedom is more available to you now than it was before coaching?
Before coaching, I always felt that I needed to perform. I always needed to do everything to a standard right up here. And that meant running really hard, running really fast. Oh, I've got an injury. Oh, but I still have to do that. Oh, I need to run my business and I need to be perfect. I cannot make any mistakes, and I'd make mistakes and I'd feel really bad. I wouldn't hit my my personal goals. I wasn't keeping my house clean. All these sort of little standards we set for, or I set for myself. I just didn't feel like I was reaching them. I didn't feel like I was being a good wife. I didn't feel like I was being a good friend.
Sounds like you were permanently dissatisfied with yourself and the results that you were creating in your life.
Yes, I was never reaching the line in the sand that I kept pushing out.
Yeah, exactly.
So, and after coaching, what happened was I was able to see that those lines were made up by me, and therefore I could dictate what they were. I had, or have, I still have, more choice and freedom in my life of how I react to situations. Because like I said, I'm quite fiery, so I can get really frustrated if I get things wrong. And I give myself a really hard time and had really negative self-talk. But now I can sit down and go, it's okay. You made a mistake. That's how we learn. That's how we learn. And especially going in and studying osteopathy, which is quite challenging, I make a lot of mistakes. I feel quite inadequate a lot of the time, but then I can remind myself, actually, it's okay.
Yeah.
You're learning.
Yeah.
And have a lot more compassion. And when people cut me off in traffic, I don't swear at them anymore. I'm like, oh, I suppose you're going to the hospital. But no, in all fairness, I'm a lot more curious about other people's behavior. And if people are rude or short or any sort of behavior that would have made me feel quite hurt, I'm now quite curious and compassionate towards them. Like, you know what? They might be having a hard day. They might have not had good sleep. Maybe they're having a hard time at home. So I'm a lot more curious about other people's behavior. And I am also able to separate myself from that and not say it's not about me.
Yeah. Yeah. And how does that feel in your body? Compare how you used to feel in your body before you developed these skills and how you feel now, the actual embodiment of that.
Oh, I feel a lot more relaxed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was always quite tense, and I still, like I say, it's a work in progress.
Mm-hmm.
But using the breath work that you taught me, just taking time and space, go for a walk around the block, just allow the body to slow down,
Mm-hmm.
just really helps me feel, I feel a lot more relaxed and at ease. Even in a stressful situation, I can say, okay, just take 5, check in.
Well done. That's amazing. Well, thank you, Kimmy. It is very kind of you to give some of your time just to have a check-in. And I'm amazed at how you've continued the work and you've continued to grow on your own without me. Well done. That's incredible. And I hope you're really proud of yourself with what you've achieved and the fact that you have finally decided to pursue your dream, which is to actually study as a health professional and do something that's really fulfilling for you. Well done.
Thanks, Mans.
Cool. Thanks, Kimmy.